for 2027. And the National Democratic Congress, the opposition party, expected to give the ruling All Progressives Congress a real run for their money, announced its guidelines for its upcoming party primaries, opting for the direct voting system. So on Kakaaki this Thursday, we'll be looking at these whirlwind sequence of political developments and the implications for next year's polls. And joining us to do this is Dr. A.K. Peters, who is the Executive Director of a non-governmental organization, Setting Leadership Initiative. Now, away from politics, as the Nigerian government and the World Bank agreed to cancel the $717.7 million in undisbursed funding originally allocated for the country's electricity sector. A statement released earlier in the week by the World Bank revealed that the cancellation followed a formal request by the Nigerian government and a mutual decision by both parties to discontinue the program due to the failure to meet key reform targets. The decision marks an abrupt end to the power sector recovery performance-based operation program, pushing its final closing date forward from June 30, 2027 to May 31, 2026. So a number of reasons are responsible for this. The decision marks that's talking about macroeconomic mismatches, excluding tariff shortfalls, disbursement delays, and some of the reasons given by the World Bank for terminating the program. Some analysts say, contrary to claims that the Nigerian government cancelled the loan, the World Bank actually withdrew the facility over unsatisfactory performance. Well, the bottom line is simply that the facility has been withdrawn, which leads to some key questions. What effect will the abrupt end to this program have on Nigeria's epileptic power supply? Is this good news for those clamoring for a reduction in Nigeria's debt exposure? And what needs to be done to alter the dynamics that led to the failure of this World Bank-supported program? Why does it seem like, no matter the efforts, Nigeria's power sector seems destined not to work? These are some of the questions we shall be putting to the Executive Secretary and CEO of the Association of Power Generation Companies, Dr. Joy Ogaji. Another doctor is, she's an economist, a finance expert, and a public affairs analyst, Dr. Marcelo Keke, will also weigh in on the discussion. So that's the outlook on the program this morning on Kakaaki, the African Voice. But of course, you can join us. You can be part of the program by sending your views and comments to us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, and of course, you can watch live on YouTube at Africa Independent TV. That's how you can watch us live on YouTube. In case you have to leave home and you are on the go, you can still watch on your tablet or on your mobile phone. So stay with us, talking about staying abreast of the news. We'll be bringing you the world news in just a moment, right after this break. Thank you for staying with us on Kakaaki, the African Voice. This is the World News. You are welcome. A leading African think tank group, the African School of Diplomacy and International Relations, has renewed calls for a United States of Africa, urging leaders to ignore colonial-era borders and unite the continent under one umbrella. AIT's diplomatic correspondent, Sadiat Dosumu, has a report.
African Day commemorates the founding of the Organization of African Union (OAU) on May 25, 1963. It is celebrated to honor the continent's liberation from colonial rule, promote Pan-African solidarity, celebrate the richness of African culture, and reflect on the collective journey towards a united, prosperous future. The African School of Diplomacy and International Relations (ASDIR) is leveraging on the core values of the day to ask for practical efforts aimed at taking the continent to the next level.
As we commemorate Africa Day 2026, let us renew our commitment to fund the vision of our African unity. Let us heed the call of our forefathers and seize the historic moment to forge a truly united continent. The time for hesitation has passed. We call upon all Africa head of states, policymakers, civil societies, the Fan-Brand Africa diasporas, and every citizen to champion this cause.
Beyond borders, ASDIR is pushing for harmonized customs, taxation, and trade rules to create a seamless economic bloc.
We must accelerate the implementation of existing African Union integration framework. The structural deficits hold us back can no longer be justified in an era where continental bloc dictates global affairs.
With the AU marking its 63rd anniversary, ASDIR says Africa can no longer speak with 54 fragmented foreign policies. It insists the continent must act as core formidable voice on global security, climate adaptation, and reparatory justice. Sadiat Dusumu, AIT News.
Tension overshadowed preparations for Eid al-Adha in parts of northern India as Muslim communities in Uttar Pradesh struggled with growing restrictions on public prayers. In Maliana village in Meerut district, worshippers gathered inside a small mosque to carefully plan how prayers would be conducted without triggering confrontations or violating police directives.
Inside the mosque, committee members urged worshippers to avoid gathering outside the premises if the building became overcrowded. They advised people to wait for additional prayer sessions, stay away from disputes, and avoid recording or reacting to provocations as concerns mounted over security and possible tensions during the celebrations. Many residents followed updates circulating on WhatsApp groups where police advisories reportedly warned Muslims against offering prayers in public spaces. The atmosphere reflected growing anxiety among worshippers who feared that even routine Eid gatherings could attract scrutiny or opposition from authorities and Hindu nationalist groups. Maliana carries painful memories for many Muslims after the 1987 massacre, in which dozens of Muslims were killed by a mob and members of the provincial armed constabulary. Although a court acquitted several accused persons decades later, over lack of evidence, the village remains deeply sensitive to communal tensions and religious security concerns. For more than a decade, Hindu nationalist organizations and some politicians linked to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJ party have opposed Muslims praying in open public spaces, arguing that such gatherings create traffic and security problems. Muslim groups, however, insist that many mosques and Eid prayer grounds are too small to accommodate large crowds during major religious events, leaving worshippers with limited alternatives.
Israel has launched one of its heaviest waves of airstrikes on Lebanon in recent weeks while expanding military ground operations beyond its self-declared security zone. Lebanese security officials said more than 120 airstrikes targeted southern and eastern parts of the country.
Lebanon's Health Ministry reported that at least 31 people were killed and dozens wounded in the latest attacks. Among the dead were women and children in the southern town of Burj al-Shamali, where several residential areas were hit during the bombardment. The renewed offensive has further strained the fragile ceasefire announced in April to halt fighting between Israel and the armed group Hezbollah. The escalation also came amid wider regional tensions linked to the conflict involving Iran, Israel, and the United States. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israeli forces were operating extensively inside Lebanon and securing territory to protect northern Israeli communities. Israeli officials described the operations as targeted efforts aimed at removing threats posed by Hezbollah fighters and infrastructure. Some Israeli strikes reportedly landed near historical and strategic sites, including the medieval Beaufort Castle and areas surrounding the Caron Dam in eastern Lebanon. Israeli troops have also continued demolishing homes in villages located within the proposed buffer zone, extending several kilometers into southern Lebanon. Hezbollah said it responded by targeting advancing Israeli troops and military vehicles using drones, rockets, and artillery fire near Zautar al-Sharika. Lebanese authorities say the conflict has killed thousands since March, while Israeli forces have also suffered casualties despite the ceasefire arrangement.
The head of Hamas's military wing, Mohammed Odeh, has been killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza City just days after the death of his predecessor in a separate attack. Palestinian sources and family members said Odeh, his wife, and later their adult son were killed after missiles struck a residential building in one of the city's busiest market districts.
Local medics said at least 3 Palestinians died and dozens of others were injured when the strike hit upper floors of the Al-Khayali building as residents prepare for the Muslim holiday. Witnesses reported hearing helicopters moments before several missiles hit the building, almost simultaneously causing severe destruction and trapping people inside. Israel's military and the Shin Bet security agency said the operation targeted buildings allegedly used as hideouts by Odeh after months of intelligence monitoring. Israeli authorities also stated that a nearby apartment linked to another Hamas member involved in the October 7 attack on southern Israel was struck during the same operation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described Odeh as a key planner of the October 7 assault and said Israel would continue pursuing everyone involved in the attack. Israel Katz also reaffirmed that Israel intended to stop Hamas from maintaining either military or civilian control over Gaza. The latest strike comes despite a ceasefire agreement reached in October, as violence has continued across Gaza with frequent Israeli operations and ongoing accusations of violations from both sides. Gaza's health ministry says more than 72,800 people have been killed since the war began, while Israel says its campaign was launched in response to the Hamas-led attack that killed about 1,200 people and resulted in the abduction of 251 hostages.
The United Kingdom and Poland are set to sign a major defense and security treaty aimed at strengthening cooperation against growing hostile threats across Europe. The agreement will be finalized during talks in London between British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk.
It's expected to deepen defense collaboration while improving border security and efforts to combat organized crime. British officials also said the agreement would expand cooperation with the European Union in response to increasing geopolitical instability. Both leaders are expected to discuss the rise in hybrid attacks across Europe, including cyber attacks, espionage operations, and alleged Russian-linked sabotage incidents. Britain cited recent arson attacks and coordinated hostile activities as evidence of growing security challenges facing European nations. British officials described the agreement as the most significant advance in defense ties between both countries in decades. The deal will also focus on combining industrial expertise to develop sophisticated weapons systems and new medium-range air defense capabilities. Poland has increasingly strengthened military partnerships with European allies as regional tensions continue following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Warsaw has already signed a defense agreement with France and is pursuing a similar arrangement with Germany. Polish authorities say the country's role as a major transit hub for military aid to Ukraine has made it a frequent target for cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns. The new treaty reflects broader efforts by European nations to boost security cooperation amid pressure to take greater responsibilities for continental defense.
Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has been declared winner of the African Democratic Congress ADC's presidential primary elections, polling 1,848,370 votes to defeat his closest rival, former governor of Rivers State and former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amici, who polled 504,117 votes. But in Rivers State, Amici defeated the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, and also in Bayelsa State by securing 115,000 votes. In Rivers, against 912 votes for the former Vice President. In Bayelsa State, Amici also emerged victorious with 21,404 votes, beating Atiku, who polled 1,470 votes, while Hayatuddin secured 439 votes. In his acceptance speech after his declaration in Abuja, Atiku called on the ruling All Progressives Congress APC to desist from using the state institutions to witch hunt leaders of opposition parties. The newly elected ADC presidential candidate believes that no winner, no vanquished in the just concluded primary elections, and urged his co-contestants to join hands with him to lead the party in winning the 2027 elections. All right, that's the world news on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Stay with us. We have more reports for you on Kakaaki Business.
Welcome to Kakaaki Business. Gold prices fell about 2% to around $4,400 an ounce on Wednesday, the lowest level in nearly 2 months, as declining oil prices helped ease fears of another inflation spike. Development in the Middle East remained in focus, with traders growing increasingly hopeful that the US and Iran could soon reach an agreement to end the conflict and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The optimism persisted despite mixed signals from both Washington and Tehran, as well as fresh strikes earlier this week. Iranian state television reported details of an unofficial draft memorandum between Tehran and Washington, under which the two countries would restore traffic flows through the strait. However, the White House later denied the report. Gold stands nearly 15% below the level seen at the start of the conflict, as concerns over an energy-driven inflation shock reinforce expectations that major central banks may keep monetary policy tighter for longer. Mid-month inflation rates month-on-month in Brazil decreased to 0.62% in May from 0.89% in April of 2026. Mid-month inflation rates in Brazil averaged 0.50% from 2000 until 2026, reaching an all-time high of 3.05% in December of 2002 and a record low of 0.73% in August 2022. EU passenger car registrations rose 5.1% year-on-year to 972,314 units in April 2026, marking the third consecutive month of growth, but slowing from a 12.5% increase in March. The market continued to benefit from strong consumer demand for electrified vehicles, underpinned by new and revised tax incentives and subsidy schemes across major European countries. Among the bloc's 4 largest markets, registrations increased in Germany, Italy, and Spain, while France recorded a slight drop of 0.3%. In the January to April period, new EU car registrations rose 4.2% despite persistent geopolitical tensions. Meanwhile, battery electric vehicles accounted for 19.7% of the EU market year to date, up from 15.3% last year, highlighting continued momentum in the shift toward electrification. Three of the four largest markets together represent 64% of total BEV registrations posted strong year-to-date growth, namely Germany, France, and Italy. The consumer confidence indicator in France fell to 82 in May 2026 from 84 in April, below expectations of 83, marking its lowest level since March 2023 and moving further below its long-term average of 100. Households grew more pessimistic about their financial situation, with views on both past and expected finances deteriorating further. Assessment of living standards in France also weakened, both past and future. Major purchase intention declined sharply to -40 from -35, while unemployment expectations remained elevated at 54 despite easing slightly from 56. Meanwhile, households' perceptions of past price increases continued to rise, while future inflation expectations eased. Saving intentions edged higher to 40 from 39, while both current and expected saving capacity remain unchanged at 18 and 14 respectively. The African Development Bank says Africa's economic remained resilient despite rising global uncertainties, with the continent projected to remain among the world's fastest growing region. However, the bank warns that growing debt pressure, high energy costs, and global supply chain disruption continue to threaten economic stability across Africa. These were the key highlights of the 2026 African Economic Outlook reports released during the African Development Bank annual meetings. The bank said 36 of Africa's 54 countries recorded stronger growth in 2025, with 22 countries posting growth rates above 5%. The AFDB noted that the spike in global oil and gas prices is increasing inflationary pressures across Africa, with continental inflation projected to average 10.4% in 2026. For Nigeria, the bank projected GDP growth of 4.1% in 2026, while inflation is expected to remain elevated at over 16%. The AFDB urged African countries to improve domestic revenue mobilization, strengthen tax collection system, invest in renewable energy, deepen regional trade, and reduce dependence on external financing. As Nigeria marks this year's Children's Day celebration, stakeholders are calling for greater investment in creativity, innovation, and vocational education to prepare young people for the future. In Abuja, entrepreneurs are using the occasion to expose children to practical skills in furniture and interior design. Organizers say the initiative is aimed at building confidence, creativity, and entrepreneurial thinking among children while stressing the need for early technical and vocational training.
Summarize, because that question bleeds my heart all the time. Nigeria does not have technical school. We have a lot of very skilled people in Nigeria. Unfortunately, they do not have the opportunity for a proper technical education. When I say technical education, I'm not talking about just learning how to maneuver wood or to screw and drill. You also need to have administrative knowledge. You also need to understand psychology. You also need to understand aesthetics.
We're trying to train the children early at young age about furniture, because we're introducing local production. And being a furniture maker for over 12 years, I deem it that it's high time we stop importation and encourage local content, encourage local production. And these children today, they are learning physically decoration, woodwork, size 2, wall decoration with mirror, and this has really given them a big insight.
Some of the participating children expressed excitement about learning how to design and create furniture pieces. Parents at the event also used the occasion to pray for the safe return of kidnapped children across the country.
Happy, yes, an artist and study architecture.
I wish the Nigerian children a happy Children's Day, and I continue to pray for God's blessings, protection upon them, and especially at this time when we have a lot of children in the forests that are yet to see their loved ones. On a day like this, as much as we are celebrating with other children here, we are also remembering them in our prayers and praying that the government will do something about it.
Education and child development advocates say a program that combines creativity with practical skills can help prepare Nigerian children for the demands of a changing economy. And that's Kakaaki Business. Good morning.
Jolly Phillips. Now everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Hello! How are you doing today? Thanks for joining me, Jolly here again, for our 1-minute workout. So, what are we doing? They're called in and outs. This is the easy version. Just one knee to the chest, but if you want to go all out, that's the hard version. All right? Are you ready? Of course you are. Your time starts now. I'll start with the easy version, okay? Now, just keep your focus forward and push those knees to your shoulders. That's what you want to do. Now, if this is too easy for you, you want to step up your game. Come on, push both knees at the same time. Woo! Push, push, push. If you get tired here, just revert back to the easy version, all right? Let's work. Push, push. Oh, those abs are cooking. This is a pure ab workout. We get to work those hip flexors as well. Come on, I'm going to the easy version. 20 seconds left. Push, push, don't give up. Work those abs. For the last 10 seconds, all of us go to the hard one. Are we ready? 10, come on, 9, 8, 7, 6, push, 5, 4, 3, 2, and time. Well done. Well done. I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye.
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today, I'll be speaking something that I've titled Learning from Your Mistake. You will make mistakes. It happens to all of us. We are all humans, including me. I make mistakes, and I've made a lot of decisions that you made that brought about the mistake. What information did I have? What did I do? What did I not do? What did I miss? You see, you reflect. The power of reflection around the source of the mistake can be a guarantee that next time you won't be able to make that type of mistake again. Third thing is identify the lesson that has been learned. What would you do differently next time? What system can put you in a place to avoid making the same mistake you have made before? Fourth, make amends if needed. If your mistakes hurt someone, apologize and make it right. I mean, there's nothing wrong apologizing. A lot of people make mistakes. They fail other people. Guess what? They simply say they are sorry, but they do not have the strength to actually truly apologize and turn a new leaf towards those individuals. You see? So, fifth is share the lessons. Help others avoid the same mistake. Your failure can become someone else's wisdom. That's why the concept of mentorship comes into place. There are a lot of people today who have succeeded in life. They have made a lot of money, succeeded in private industry. In their private industry, they have made a big difference. But guess what? They have not been able to make out time to teach the generations coming after them how not to make the mistakes that they made. Some people today have failed completely because of the mistake that they made, and they stayed on the ground, refusing to rise. They too have an opportunity to share with people around them how not to make the mistake that they made that has kept them in a place of stunted growth. The reality is the fact that number 6 is sometimes you have to forgive yourself. If you have made a mistake, you have to forgive yourself and move forward. Don't come out in guilt. Several people today have refused to learn from their mistakes. They have blamed themselves. They have kept themselves by themselves. They have not forgiven themselves. That's why they are unable to take actions that can help them become great. So mistakes are part of your leadership journey. Take note of that and become the best that you can ever be. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man doesn't have a purpose of waking up, Sleeping becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered why your child tends to emulate his or her friends no matter what your own principles are? Do you know that acquaintances are different from friends? Now, when anyone identifies another person as a friend, then it means they possibly have certain things in common. But for your child, the word friend is a deep word and needs to be evaluated. You see, friends have a very strong influence on your child, and they tend to pick up characteristics from one another. However, children need friends or playmates, but you must do your own due diligence. Make sure you have and invite your home rules and regulations with your child. Meet and frequently interact with your child's friends and his or her parents. Ensure to visit them too. Now, what are their beliefs on everything and how does it differ from yours? Will it in any way affect the child's perception negatively? Make sure that you discern properly. Although it is natural for your child, no matter the age, to feel that you're too nosy and getting in the way. It's okay, but let your child understand that you want the best for him or her. Make sure not to be overbearing though. And because friends may make or mark, if there is a particular friend you have your reservations about, do not hesitate to warn your child or give your child reasons why that friend is not good for them. Be explicit about it and listen to your child's opinion too. Be a role model to your child and their friends. Be their friends too, and once in a while, share life experiences with them that are positive and impactful. But as I said earlier, give them some breathing space too. Honestly, that's my two cover.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political Platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as Political Platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political Platform, now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
Thank you so much for staying with us. You are watching Kakaaki, the African Voice, and of course it is 7 a.m. on the program. When it is that time of day, we take a look at the top stories on the front pages of Nigerian newspapers, and we get reviewers to look at the stories and tell us the news behind the news, the story behind the story. This morning, I have two erudite journalists with me. Chizoba Ogbeche is here. She's the deputy editor of the Blueprint newspaper. She's joined, of course, by Chuks Akunna, executive director of The Authority newspaper. Good morning. And Eid Mubarak You are both not Muslims, but at least you are here. You are here for the Eid. All right, good to see you again. So let's look at what the papers have very quickly so that we can now look at the stories, which ones we are weighing in on. We start with the Daily Asset this morning. And what does the Daily Asset have for us? The front page of the Daily Asset has that story, Children's Day. Tinubu, Makinde, Abiodun reassures safe return of abducted pupils. And the writers say President promises intelligence-driven operations nationwide, or your Ogun beef up security around schools. That's what the Daily Asset has on the front page. But if you look at the bottom of the page, you also see U.S. report indicts Fulani militants over Nigeria's worsening insecurity. It has riders too. Panel links violence to killings, kidnappings, mass displacement. 30,000 armed militants operate nationwide, says U.S. CIRF. That's the front page of the Daily Monitor for this morning. Let's go on and look at what the Nigerian News Direct has. Children's Day, Tinubu vows rescue of abducted students, teachers in Borno, Oyo. And of course, the story, you'll find details on page 5 of the paper. Now, moving on to the next paper now, which is This Nigeria. What does it have for us this morning? Abducted children are our collective grief, says Tinubu. And the writers say ex-education minister Ezekwesili decries government's insensitivity to welfare of Nigerian children. At the bottom of the page, you see troops secure Eid, tighten grip on terrorists in Northeast. You'll find details also on page 4 of the paper. Al Jazeera Nigeria also has that story about Children's Day. Tinubu assures rescue of abducted school children. That's how the paper leads this morning, as governors recommit to addressing children's plight. All right, the Daily Monitor is the next paper we have. Its own headline says, "You're not forgotten, abandoned. Tinubu assures abducted Borno or your school children." Direct relevant security agencies to sustain, intensify coordinated rescue operations for abducted children, other vulnerable citizens nationwide. Also on the front page of the paper, at the bottom of the page, you'll find that story. 30,000 militants fueling insecurity in Nigeria, U.S. report. And the writer says, urges FG states to create broader underlying conditions that are more conducive to safe practice of religious freedom. Moving away from that, we go to the New Telegraph. On its own front page, it has that headline there. Tinubu, abducted Oyo Borno pupils, teachers not forgotten, abandoned. And the writer says police arrest 8 suspects as NUT declares indefinite strike. Let's move on now to the Daily Trust. Its own top story says 13 days after, Borno, Oyo pupils still in captivity. And of course, when you look at the front page of that paper, you see that the story flows from the front page, continues on pages 3 and 4 of the paper. Moving on now to the Daily Sun. Eid al-Kabir, Tinubu, Abdusalami, Obi, Wike, preach peace, tolerance, unity. President prays in Lagos as Khan calls for compassion, advocates new approach to child school safety amid insecurity concerns. That's the front page story, the top story on the front page of the Sun newspaper this morning. Let's now go and look at what the Nigerian pilot has. 30,000 terrorists in Nigeria. It's in red as usual. And the riders, many of them, there are 4 riders there, I'll take 2. U.S. report says armed militants operating across Nigeria. Militants are deadliest non-state actors against religious freedom in Nigeria. That's the Nigerian pilot for you this morning. Going on to the Vanguard now. Its own top story is on insecurity. U.S. panel accuses police army of collusion in militia attacks. Let's go now to the Daily Independent. Yes, the Daily Independent is the next paper we have. And its lead story says, protests, division, follow Atiku's election as ADC candidate. And that's talking about the 2027 presidential election. I'm not sure what we have on the screen is the correct edition of the paper. But then what I have, which is the Daily Independent for this morning, Thursday, May 28, says, protests, division, follow Atiku's election as ADC candidate. The writer says Atiku scores 1,846,370 votes, Amechi 504,117 votes, Hayatuddin 177,120 votes. All right. We haven't forgotten abducted students, teachers. Tinubu also on the front page of the Daily Independent this morning. Now go look at the Leadership newspaper. The biggest headline there says Atiku wins ADC ticket set for fourth presidential run. Former vice president receives 1,846,370 votes. Amici gets 504,117. Ayatuddin secures 177,120. Page 4 is where you will find details of that story in case you want to buy a copy of the Leadership newspaper this morning. Let's go to the Daily Global now. It's a political story. I will not remain a sitting duck. Omagege dumps APC. I will not remain a sitting duck. Omagege dumps APC. That's the top story there on the front page of the Daily Global. Now going to the Observer's Times. 2027 power tussle. Tinubu's daughter threatens protests over disputed Lagos APC primaries. Alleges Justice Forum hijacked results in Mushin, Agege, Ojokoro constituencies. Vows to lead market women on protest if stolen mandates are not restored to rightful winners. That's the Observer's Times. Let's go to Chizoba's paper now, the Blueprint. Its own headline says, party primaries, high turnover looms. Only 55 out of 105 senators secure return tickets. And the writer says APC aspirants protest delay in issuance of certificates of return. Now let's go to the next paper, which is The Guardian. Its own headline says, hashtag bring back our students. Nigerians demand end to abductions, decry empty promises. Page 6 is where you'll find details of that on the front page of The Guardian. And of course, The Authority newspaper is also here with us. And its own lead story says, first Igbo 3-star general, Obiako, dies at 75. And the story flows from there, the front page to page 2, about how the general passed on. So that's the last paper we have for you this morning. And of course, time for us to take a look at the talking points. What exactly are we looking at this morning? So, Chizoba, let's start from Children's Day. You are the mother here. So let's start with Children's Day. And the Daily Asset, the Nigerian News Direct, and This Nigeria all have that. Children's Day, Tinubu Makinde Abiodun assures safe return of abducted pupils. It's been 13 days after.
It's certainly worrisome that we are celebrating this year's Children's Day while some parents are mourning or uncertain about the fate of their children because they've been kidnapped. But we also must remember that there are those, the Chibok girls have not all been rescued. So it's becoming like a trend and we pray that it does not happen in this circumstance. Though your state government has given reassurance, just like the president has, but Nigerians keep asking, what does that amount to? It's not just keep saying they are not abandoned, they are not forgotten. Nigerians look forward to seeing more action or protection of this school protection. You know, there's been a lot of policies about, I know there was funding for school protection at some point. Even in the police, there's a squad, I think SIS, Special Intervention Squad, which has to do with election protection and school. And while we are not having elections now, as it were, expectation is that the concentration will be on schools. I know that the leader of that squad was with the IG when he visited Oyo, when this incident first happened. So expectation is that that squad should be empowered or reorganized or reinvented. I don't know how to put it, but that's...
You put it in 3 different ways.
How best to put it. But one, what is their challenge, or what are their challenges? Are they also, do they have presence in the states? Because the police is one security agency that has presence everywhere. There's no community that does not have either a division or a police post. So, and you have schools in all those places. Expectation is that such a squad should have presence in all these places and also be equipped to be proactive in protecting these children, and also have the wherewithal to respond when these kind of situations come up. Because it's not just about giving reassurance and at the end of the day, it's like raising people's hope and dashing it. Like I said, there's need for Nigerians to see that actually something is being done in this regard, and that hopefully we will not have a repeat of such incident. And it's also worrisome that it's in Kwara, like we move from the northwest now to the southwest. It means that no part of the country is safe. So which means every school in Nigeria, no matter where it's located, should be properly protected to ensure that it doesn't happen. Because if we beef up the southwest, the same people could as well go to the southeast or south-south. So it simply means that every school is endangered, and security agencies should add as much as into that effect. And I know that civil defense, that's NCDC, are also supposed to be deployed to schools on the same rule. One will ask, what has become of these deployments, and are they equipped to also carry out this rule? Because it's not just about deploying personnel. Can they effectively respond when this kind of incident happens? And then they also need to work with communities, because I keep saying, whether you call them insurgent, bandits, terrorists, whatever name, they live with us, they operate within us. We've even had cases where the community members that they was giving them intel. Such people should be fished out and punished to serve as a deterrent to others.
Chooks, I'm going to start with you by reading one of the comments that we have coming in on YouTube. And Victor Temba says, kidnapping of school children has now become like inter-school competitions. You don't know which school is going to welcome the kidnappers yet. I also read more than 15, 20 years ago somewhere that the first 24 hours in any kidnap situation is critical. We have 13 days gone. That's what the Daily Trust put on its own front page. So how do you see this?
Yes, I once read a book several decades ago, The Rich, a Story of the Species. And the book spoke about the rich and their vulnerability. You see, no matter how much we want to protect these schools, it's practically impossible. We have about 200,000 primary schools in Nigeria. So if you detail 10 security officers to each school, I'm sure we don't have that number. And also, even the most heavily guarded presidents in the world, presidents of countries have been attacked. The most guarded president in the world is President Donald Trump. He's been a target of assassination several times, you know. We've seen people like Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, we've seen presidents in Africa and elsewhere killed, even with all the security men at their disposal. So I think it's a question of values. If criminals do not want to give up their trade, their evil trade, it's going to be an ill wind that will continue to blow us. Because like I said, children, imagine those days we used to trek to school, my secondary school, I was a day student, we used to trek to school. So imagine every child in primary school or secondary school goes to school in school uniform. So imagine the distance from the person's house to school. Every child you see that is in school, that this child is in school. So every child, if these attackers were to attack, there's nothing we can do about it. So one, it's about values. Like I say something, if you bought a truck today, a brand new truck from anywhere in the world, and you brought the truck to Nigeria, from the wharf, the first port of call is going to be a welder's place, where you put padlock you build a cage for the batteries, and then you build a padlock for the fuel tank. It's only in Nigeria that I know that people who have Corolla S, this Corolla that they use for Uber, when they want to open their bonnet, they first have to open the padlock. They padlock the bonnet because people have learned how to steal the batteries. So I think it's a question of values. We've become so materialistic, and people think that when you make 2 million, 3 million, there's less emphasis on hard work. I'm sure, you Yoruba, when you were growing up, we had this song that they used to sing in radio stations, and things like that. That farming is a virtue, that anybody who doesn't farm, will steal. I live in Nupe land, and there used to be this mockery those days, that when they see somebody who doesn't farm, they mock him and say this man is lazy, he'll be poor, because at the time farming was equated to wealth. So
because first you can feed yourself, you can feed your family.
And export. I used to see farmers who used to sell melon those days, millet, and they bought brand new cars with the money, because we all know that the first factor of production is land. And that's why it beggars belief that now those places where I was raised in Kwara State and parts of Niger, you now hear that people go there and, attack people, kidnap them for ransom. Let me give you an example. I don't know if you have taken time to study these guys who sell mangoes and fruits in Abuja.
Yes, I have.
These were guys who were cattle headers a few years ago, but who've been displaced. We never used to have Fulani who are shoe shiners. We never used to have them. We never used to have them selling fruits in Abuja. But suddenly they are all over. If you go to sites now, work sites now, construction sites in Abuja, most of them are laborers there. And when you ask them, they said that they've been attacked, their cattle have been stolen, and so they have to go and learn many other jobs. I think we have to actually examine where we got this wrong. Because insecurity, we keep driving, and then irresponsibility on the part of political office holders. Because you and I know that anybody who gets elected to the House of Reps, House of Assembly, House, anywhere, gets political appointment, in a few months, you see that his life transforms. So people also see politics as a means to an end. So as long as we continue doing these things, we continue to suffer this thing, because it's an ill wind that's not blowing anybody any good. Look at states, my Kwara State. Kwara State, I spent over 30 years of my life in Kwara State. I can't believe that places like the Igbomina areas of Kwara State, the Nupe areas of the local government area, where we used to go and harvest mangoes and do all this, and play and even camp at night. You can't believe that these areas now, are places where people cannot go and I think I saw a report about, I think Kwara State, where the governor is saying that they should stop night vigils. People going to mountain to pray. It's very common among the Yoruba, particularly that area. They go to some of these churches. They go to mountains to pray, on Fridays and weekends. It's a very, very sad story. It's a very, very sad situation.
Okay,
if
I may comment, please.
Before you comment, I think I'm going to need us to link this to that story on the front page of the Nigerian Pilot that says 30,000 terrorists in Nigeria. And I remember seeing on one of the front pages of these papers we are reviewing this morning, where the panel that came out with this report also said that there was collusion. I'm trying to find. Yes, I'm trying to find.
I think Vanguard. Was it Vanguard?
I'm trying to find a paper.
Was it Vanguard?
I don't know whether it's the Guardian or the Vanguard.
Yes.
One of them says, yes, it's the Vanguard. The Vanguard says, its main headline says, insecurity, U.S. panel accuses police, army of collusion in militias attacks. And the riders are very many. It says 1.3 million people displaced in Middle Belt crisis, pushes ban on paid lobbying for CPC countries. And there are several others like that. But the issue for me is we have a dire situation on our hands right now. Children have been taken hostage for years, since 2014. Because if we just focus on these ones in Borno and Oyo State alone, and then we'll be doing disservice and trampling on the graves of those who have died. We can't dance on their graves. So, and here is a report saying that we have 30,000 terrorists, and there's collusion from the police and the military.
Okay, but before I speak on that, I would also want to say that if we say we cannot protect schools, then it's defeatist, and then the government has failed in its duty, because their primary responsibility is protection of life and property. And if they can't do it, then it means you're accepting failure. And I also don't think that...
How do we protect life and property when, like you said, we have 200,000 primary schools, not counting the secondary schools yet, and we're preparing for elections?
Yes, fine. The schools also, most schools have security, their own, let untrained personnel, or at least that have presence there. We can talk about training them and improving them. But we can also have, if you have in a community, you have, like I talked about, police division and police posts, and you have them on alert that if something is happening, they are involved. We have to make effort. We cannot just say, like saying because corruption is in Nigeria, EFCC should stop arresting people. Because after arresting today, tomorrow, people will still steal. That cannot be the solution. I'm talking about the collusion. We've heard it even in government. But the only problem that we've hardly heard anybody being named or singled out or punished. And as long as we keep saying, it's taking a U.S. panel to tell us that there are military and police and army. But I don't think it's news, because even when Jonathan was there, he said people in government. And he has the security chiefs are part of his government.
No, when President Jonathan said it back then, a lot of people said, oh, he shouldn't have said that. I heard people made that comment.
Even myself.
That, oh, no, he shouldn't have said that. That's very unpresidential. Yeah. But now it's coming from a panel from the United States.
Yeah, but
that's
the
from
panel
outside.
cannot actually work without information from Nigeria. And Chuk says something about the Fulani people. There's also a school of thought that believes that those people we're saying that are working at China are also doing surveillance, are gathering information. It's neither here nor there, but we also need our security agency. We need to have proper registration of citizens. We have a lot of people coming, our porous border in the Sahel. You have people coming in who even bear the same name as Nigerians. You have foreigners who have NIN as Nigerians. They've become part of us. And some of them are the people working for these external forces. These 30,000 militants they're talking about, it's been said that they are not all Nigerians. Some of them come in and they go. But they work, like they say, the rat in the house is the one that gives information to the one outside. So they cannot work without the cooperation and information from the state. But like I also said, as long as people are not punished for this, yes, the DSS and other agencies are arresting people. But I keep saying that arresting the foot soldiers will not solve it, because like a regimented situation, you remove 100, they replace with 200. We also ask, why do people allow themselves to be used? It just talks about governance, the issue of governance, and people feeling, if you watched Sheikh Gumi's interview, reacting to Saudi Arabia, turning him back, denying him entrance for Mecca. He also kept emphasizing that the government is more into kinetic than non-kinetic measures in curbing insurgency and other violent crimes. It's neither here nor there, but I understand that you're supposed to use a combination of both to get it, because there are people, if there are people who are really truly ready to renounce what they are doing and work with the government, we should also welcome that. So talking about just having a figure like that, Nigeria needs to also do its own investigation, because the report has come out, but we cannot accept it lying who can sink her. The security agencies and the responsible outfits needs to also look at the reports, take it
line by
line, and look at it, and then find out those who are actually doing this. Because yes, Nigerians are involved, but we also know that we have serious problem with small and medium arm
light weapons.
Light weapon proliferation. But we also know that these people are armed with even heavy ammunition. How does it come in? How do they bring it in? Those are issues that we should also question.
Chizoba is pricking our consciences this morning, our collective consciences, but we must go now because we must go to another issue now before we go, because we have just a few minutes left, and that's the issue of Atiku winning the ticket, the presidential ticket of the ADC. And the way the Daily Independent newspaper puts it, says, protests, division follow Atiku's emergence as ADC candidate. And here, the Vanguard says, the leadership newspaper says Atiku wins ADC ticket set for 4th presidential run. Jokes.
Yeah, it's deja vu. And also, even in 1999, when Obasanjo emerged, the flag bearer of the PDP, Ekweme, a lot of people felt that Ekweme was shortchanged by the military establishment at the time. Look at the ADC. Peter Obi left, and you had Amechi, Atiku, just 3 of them left, and they are protesting. You understand? And I said this some time ago, that it's you see why incumbents win most times in most parts of the world is because they already have what you call a head start. Tinubu already is known as a flag bearer of the APC. You know, nobody's protesting, as it were, in APC that Tinubu emerged because, you know, and then here we have ADC, and then we have so it's going to be a 3-horse race again, if you ask me, in next year.
So it's going to be Tinubu, Atiku, Obi.
And you see, and that's what is different now. You know, in 2014, because they tried before to dislodge the PDP, it didn't work out, so they had to come together. You know, the CPC bloc, the ACM bloc came and said, okay, let us field one candidate. Even at the time, Tinubu had the urge to become president, but he said no, because he read the optics and said, you know, Buhari, a Muslim, because Buhari had that slight, that toga of a fundamentalist, because at the time in 2001 or so, Buhari reportedly urged Muslims to vote only Muslim candidates. So Tinubu knew that the problem, you know, Buhari was winning consistently in the Muslim north, but not in the south. So how do we break that jinx? He now packaged Osima, the pastor of Redeemed Church, said, okay, you go and
be vice running.
And what happened? Even when, after 8 years of being vice president, the same Osimajo refused to yield to Tinubu. You remember he challenged Tinubu at the primaries.
All right.
But you know, that said,
let's give Chizoba a word because we have to go now.
Okay, for me, Atiku's emergence is not a surprise. What is surprising is that his opponents are even opposing it. If you tally their votes, it's not even half of what Atiku garnered based on what ADC released. But it also goes to show that politicians hardly ever accept defeat. It's always been a case of I was shortchanged and all of that. But for me, I think ADC has had the most competitive primaries in all the parties so far. P2B was handed the ticket. Atiku Tinubu was handed the ticket. So it's only ADC that has a competitive primary election. But I think they should put whatever happened behind them and forge ahead, because some of them are insisting that Atiku is the only northern presidential candidate, and so he stands a better chance. But we'll see when that time comes. But I also agree with you that the opposition needs to put their house in order. But it looks like that ship has already sailed, because they have
same scenario, the same.
Yes, and the Oyo State governor is there. He said it's a 3-horse. It's a 4-horse, probably even more.
No, that's a donkey.
You also have Showore, whose party handed him a ticket. So at the end of the day, it looked like the opposition is even...
But how does the APC cope with this? We have one faction saying Dumebi Kachiku is its presidential candidate. Now another one says it's Atiku Abubakar. Very quickly.
If you're talking about, then you have to talk about PDP that says Jonathan is their candidate. And
Sandy Ono is also candidate. So at the end of the day,
I think the judiciary might be the deciding factor. Because even in the election, you find out that people from other parties would challenge the candidature of other emergence of, or process of emergence, or the eligibility of candidates that emerge in some political parties. So at the end of the day, the judiciary might be the deciding factor, which is unfortunate.
All right. Thank you so much. We have to go now. Thank you very much, Chizoba and Chooks. And it's been great talking to you again this morning. Chizoba Ogbeche, Deputy Editor of the Blueprint newspaper, and Chooks Akuna, Executive Director of the Authority newspaper, have been my reviewers this morning on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Stay with us. We'll be right back to pick up our first conversation.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray-Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. You are watching Kakaaki, the African Voice. Time now to go into our first conversation for this morning. Of course, in our opening intro this morning, I did tell you that the way political events are happening in Nigeria, things are coming thick and fast. And so much is going on now that before you fully absorb one, the next one is already unfolding. And we're going to look at that this morning. I'm joined now by Dr. A.K. Peters, who is the Executive Director of Setting Leadership Initiative. He's joining me this morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Peters. Good to have you.
It's my pleasure. Good morning, Nigerians.
So much is happening now, looking at the general elections, not presidential election now. What do you make of the developments so far? You see, just like the final things we discussed on the newspaper review, the ADC has two presidential candidates, Dumebi Kachiku on one side, Atiku Abubakar on the other side. The PDP has two presidential candidates. One faction says it has endorsed waived screening for former President Goodluck Jonathan. The other one has Professor Sandy Ono as its presidential candidate. So, and if you look at all the other parties too, the NDC is gearing up for its own primaries. You have the AAC, it has come up with his own presidential candidate. Omoyele Sowore has dropped the cap of chairman. He is now presidential candidate. So what do you make of all of this?
These things are not unexpected. Nigeria is on the march again, looking for Mr. President. at the end of the primaries. We are beginning to see who the gladiators are. We are beginning to identify who the pretenders are, and we are beginning to know who the contenders are. The truth is that the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, may not be given a very wonderful fight if the opposition parties don't close ranks, come together, and see what they can do. It's quite unfortunate that the opposition parties that are expected to ordinarily make the polity tick and be able to give Nigeria and Nigerians options don't seem to be doing so. They are fighting amongst themselves, and as it was in 2023, going into 2027, they are still very divided. If they approach the election this way, wow, it's going to be the way it was in 2023.
Let's start from the African Democratic Congress. I think it was on Monday that Dumebi Kachiku was announced as the presidential candidate of one faction of the party. And only last night, Atiku Abubakar emerged as presidential candidate of another party. Just a few months ago, the ADC looked like it was going to be the one that would give the All Progressives Congress, APC, a run for its money in the 2027 general elections. But that doesn't seem to be the case now. It looks like there's a change in the coloration, especially when you look at what happened with the faction, the David Mark faction of the ADC, where Rotimi Amechi, one of the presidential aspirants there, a former Minister of Transportation, has already cried foul that there were widespread irregularities across the country in the primaries. So how does that affect the chances of the ADC? Does the party still stand a chance of making a serious impact in the 2027 election?
The once beautiful bride, ADC, is beginning to crumble, and we saw it coming. The reason why the likes of Peter Obi and Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso left the ADC is the same thing we have seen playing out right now. As I said, I saw it coming, and we knew there would be two presidential candidates from the two factions of the party. This is what prompted Peter Obi and Kwankwaso to leave the party. We have seen it play out, and it will go on like that. And INEC will end up recognizing one faction, the other faction will end up being disgruntled, and there will be legal fireworks in the build-up to the election. And they will approach the election just like that. It is unfortunate, but that is Nigerian politics.
All right. What about the APC? Nigerians have said so many things about the primaries that produced, because initially what the party said was that President Bola Tinubu will be its sole presidential candidate. And then the talks of primaries came up, and then we also what happened, especially with the trending video on the internet that came from Abia, which in some quarters has been discounted as AI, while others are saying, no, it's factual. So looking at all of this, the ruling party itself does not seem to have everything put together perfectly yet. What do you think?
Given what we have seen and we are seeing in ADC, of course, for ADC, we were almost sure that Atiku Abubakar, who is the master of primaries, will always emerge from any primaries he puts forth his leg to contest. He has emerged. I didn't see Rotimi Amechi emerging from the primaries. I'd expected that faction, David Mark's faction of ADC, to have gone through the route of consensus. It would have just been consensus, because it would have been only consensus would have been the way that would have brought out Rotimi Amechi, giving the gentleman arrangement that most political parties seem to have, that it is the turn of the South, we should allow them complete their 8 years. Coming to the ruling All Progressive Congress, the APC seem to be the only very stable party now, probably aside the NDC that has just come up. That is because I don't think there really were any qualms in the APC presidential primaries. We saw President Tinubu emerging the way he needed to emerge, and nobody thought anything would have been otherwise until what you just talked about came up, which most people are actually touting that it's actually an AI kind of a thing. I do not think the APC seem to have problems. They have a candidate. Their candidate is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is just waiting for the candidates of other political parties, and if there will be measures at the end of the day on the way to January 16, 2027.
Well, I want to refer you to one of the headlines on the newspaper this morning that said that the president's daughter, the one that is the Yaloja, is talking about going on protest with market women in Lagos, asking for the restoration of stolen mandates. In quote, that's how the paper puts it. Stolen mandates in Lagos, and she was talking about primaries. That's how the paper reported it this morning. And we also have a number of cases across the country where people were talking about the fact that there were irregularities in how the primaries were conducted, especially for members of the National Assembly. And many of them very unhappy about the way things are. Now, given the fact that last week, Tuesday of last week, the Federal High Court in Abuja ruling that was interpreted in this studio by Dan Wanyawu, the chairman of the Zenith Labour Party. He said that that ruling allows anyone who is dissatisfied with his political party to move to wherever they want to move to, deregister themselves, and go and register with the party that whatever party they desire. We even said that his own party is actually still registering members at the moment. So how do you put all of this in the mix when you say the APC is stable? Because it's that word stable that caught my attention, actually.
The truth is that the primaries of APC at all levels, say the House of Assembly primaries, House of Representative primaries, as well as Senate primaries, where we really had issues, and a few governorship primaries. When the National Assembly passed the Electoral Act, removing indirect primaries, and rather relying on consensus and direct primaries, we knew this will play out, and it has played out. That a few persons can sit somewhere as political godfathers and decide the fate of so many people, so many constituencies, and the constituents of those constituencies. This is exactly what has happened. And it is not peculiar to just the ruling All Progressive Congress. It cuts across all other parties. That the president's daughter is leading a protest for the restoration of stolen mandates of those she felt ought to have won these primaries. It's within her right as a private citizen of Nigeria to do so.
No, she's a member of the APC.
Yes, she is. She's a member of the APC.
Are you?
And all of these things are not foreclosed.
Dr. Peters,
yes.
Are you a member of the APC?
Yeah, I'm a member of the APC.
Okay, I wanted to clear that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It is not foreclosed. Remember, after the primaries, which INEC was expected or is expected to monitor, at the end of the primaries, the political parties will publish who their candidates at all levels will be before they will give that recognition, or INEC will actually recognize them and put them in the ballot. So where primaries have not been so well done, it is expected that the leaders of the party will do what the party is expected to do. I'm aware that the APC, like other political parties, have set up committees for the reconciliation of the fallout of the primaries. Those who are disgruntled, those who were shortchanged, those who think the primaries would have been done better or would have gone the other way, have a right to complain. That committee at all levels, in all elections, in all constituencies, will look at these people and look at what they are bringing to the table. Is your complaint genuine? And they will look at the process that led to the emergence of the person that have come out. And if it was not clear, then the party still has a window of remedying what we think have not been so well done. The cases are many. I can speak of Oyo North Senatorial District, for instance. We didn't expect that Colonel Dr. Benga Adebola, whom we saw leading, with the results we saw, at the end of the day, we discovered he wasn't declared winner. It's like that. In Kwara South, we have Muhiba Dankaka, the lady who actually was was declared winner. Later, her name was not to be any longer. So these are some pocket cases that we have.
We also had cases of people who got to the venue of the primaries and there was nobody there. On their way back home, they heard that results had been announced.
We heard of those cases also. But of course, probably consensus had been reached by the leaders of the party at various levels. And if they reached that consensus that it should be a particular person.
But when you look at all of these instances that you have cited, including the one where the aspirant got to the venue of the primary and couldn't find anybody there and later had results announced, if you're still talking about consensus and these things happened, does that show a level playing field for everybody? Were they all carried along?
When you say venue of primaries, it's as if you are still looking at the indirect primaries, where everybody will be gathered in the same place and voting will be done. In the direct primaries, you are all expected to go to your wards. Of course, you talked of the primaries of the ADC and Atiku Abubakar emerging. Atiku Abubakar was expected to be in his own ward in Adamawa State. Rotimi Amechi was in his own ward in Rivers State. And the election was conducted concurrently across all the wards in Nigeria. Results collated and winners emerged. That you went to a particular place and where the primaries were supposed to be conducted for that ward, and you didn't find the materials there, you didn't find representatives of the party there, probably you didn't get the right information to have known that either the primaries were not to take place there, or they have decided on consensus, or the leaders were somewhere meeting. These things actually happen. It is politics. One person will want to outsmart the other person to get the ticket. But at the end of the day, that will be at the detriment of the party. Because oftentimes, the candidate godfathers would have anointed as the candidates of the party to run this election may not be as popular as the other candidate who have the generality of members of the party supporting them and the electorate within that delineated electoral jurisdiction supporting them. And when such candidates or parties put forth such candidates to contest in the general election against candidates of other political parties, that would have been more formidable, so to say. You won't have a balance, and the party may end up losing the election. The people may end up also losing better representation because a godfather decided to support one person.
Okay, Dr. Peters, let me take you to Delta State briefly, very briefly. Ovie Omagege,
former
deputy Senate President, has left the APC. He says he will no longer be sitting duck. That's how one of the papers headlined it this morning. And this is one of the things that many people pointed out when the entire government structure of the state moved into the APC. Yeah. That you are displacing an existing structure. What happens to them? So what do you think will play out in that situation?
Delta State is not the only state where the governor moved. The APC announced generally that they were giving the structures.
Delta State is the only state where the entire government structure, right from the governor down to the local councils, moved to
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
I wanted
Before
to just
then,
settle
Ovie
that.
Omoagege was the leader of the party.
party.
By the standard of APC, by the pronouncement of the leaders of the APC, they handed over the leadership of the party to the sitting governor of the state. And the sitting governor of the state, who moved with the entire apparatus of PDP to the APC, took over control of the new party, APC, completely.
Omagege is out of APC now.
Omagege is on his way out of APC.
He's not on his way out. He said he has resigned.
Because he's disgruntled having not got what he wanted to get, the senatorial ticket of his senatorial district. I do not think it would be too nice for the party to allow the likes of Omo Agege to live the way they are living. There should be some kind of reconciliation. Okay. Let us see what best can be done. Okay. Because these people also are people that are popular in the party and are popular in the state.
Let's leave the APC for now. Let's go and look at what the court ruling on INEC's powers to fix primaries, the voiding of electoral umpires, of the electoral umpires 2027 timetable, and the decision by INEC to appeal the ruling. What do you make of all of that?
As I always say, it is in the interest of Nigeria that the courts don't dabble so much into politics. It is also in the interest of Nigeria that INEC maintain the umpire position.
Dr. Peters, you make it sound like the courts are meddlesome interlopers here. People take this, they take these cases to court. And when these cases come, the judges are bound to hear them, aren't they?
Definitely.
Exactly. So when you say they shouldn't meddle, the word meddle presupposes that they do not have anything to do with this situation.
The courts have all the powers to get involved in anything so long a citizen or a corporate body takes the matter to court. Now, the court have made pronouncement. And the first pronouncement was that political parties can still register members. And that the primaries of political parties should not end when INEC had said it should end. Mm-hmm. And we too do not think that, I agree to a very large extent. This is democracy. We should allow the people express themselves. The Electoral Act was passed very late in the day. And while people were still grappling with understanding the Electoral Act, INEC used the Act and started implementing it in the way INEC thought and felt that it should be implemented. Now, these powers of INEC or the pronouncement of INEC or the timetable of INEC have been tested by the court. Remember, our democracy is a growing process. We will keep firming it up to see how best we can refine it to be like developed democracies. I do not think that individuals who are not so sure of their membership of certain political parties now should not be allowed to move to other political parties if the court have pronounced so and interpreted so. They can be allowed to move to other political parties and be able to actualize their political intentions if they want to. But for now, I think the position of the law is the position of the court.
Okay, now what do you think should be the next move for political parties now? Whether they are the ruling party or the opposition, when you talk about this court ruling, now that everybody, because I was pleasantly surprised when Dan Wanyanwu talked about that on Monday, that parties can still register according to the court ruling. And now, the doors have been thrown open again. What do you expect to see? What will the parties be doing now?
The build-up to 2027 is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Political parties now, the primaries are almost over. The political parties will not be looking at registration of members. Registration of members will not be to them as important as campaigning for votes. The votes they will get at the election, majority of the vote, 95%, maybe almost 98% of the votes should come from those who are not members of their political parties, but those whose policies of the party, whose programs of the party, whose ideology of the party, whose manifestos of the party have appealed to. And they have looked at the personalities or the persons that are flying the flags as standard bearers of the various political parties, and what they are expecting to have, what they will tell them they want to change in Nigeria. That should be where the political parties should be looking at now. The electorate, about 94 million registered voters as they are now. But INEC have thrown open more registration. the political parties should start appealing to young people, appealing to Nigerians who do not carry voters' card. I have my voters' card here anyway, to go and register and vote for them.
Okay. Now, let's quickly look at the PDP because we have a few minutes left. Let's quickly look at the PDP. There are also two factions here now that have presented, that have proclaimed their presidential candidates. Professor Sandy Ono, a former senator, has been pronounced candidate of the PDP by the faction that is loyal to the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike. Now, the other faction has said that it will, that it has endorsed former President Goodluck Jonathan, who hasn't said a word about the issue. At the time he was even pronounced, the man, he was working somewhere in Sierra Leone. So what do you make of that?
For the Turaki faction that gave their ticket, so to say, or reserved their ticket for His Excellency President Goodluck Jonathan, I would say, let us wait and hear from President Goodluck Jonathan.
Okay, fair enough.
A few days ago, before the public holiday, a court pronounced here in Abuja, I guess, that President Jonathan is qualified to run.
Sure.
And if President Jonathan is qualified to run, and he is interested in running, let him tell his political party, let him tell Nigerians. I watched on AIT when Jonathan was visited at his residence and asked to come and run for president again. I listened to him very well. He never gave his imprimatur to it. He didn't say yes to them. He rather only said that the presidential race is not, there's a way he put it, that the presidential race is not, is it a game of, whatever he said. And that means that he has not accepted to run. Okay. However, I am aware too that Professor Sandy Ono, former senator representing Cross River Central Senatorial District, have picked the ticket of the PDP in the Nyesom Wike faction. And having picked that ticket, Nyesom Wike is an ardent and staunch supporter of Mr. President. I didn't expect that his faction of PDP should field a candidate for the presidential election, given that he has said he and his supporters and everything about and around him will be for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It sounds a bit contradictory. However, I think he's only holding the ticket. At the appropriate time, he will relinquish that ticket. He will say, I'm not running. I want to throw my weight. And the whole of the PDP, led by the faction of PDP led by Nyesom Wike, we are throwing our weight behind.
So
President
you think it's a placeholder?
I see that coming.
Okay, last word. The Nigerian Democratic Congress, do you see the party pulling its weight in the election?
The truth is that as at today, we must tell ourselves the truth. I am a politician, an APC member. But I must say that His Excellency Governor Peter Gregory Obi is a phenomenon. And we as members of the APC cannot sit back and just wish, by wave of hand, dismiss Peter Obi, especially now that he is coming together with Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso. I do not see any fight from the PDP. I do not see any twisting of arms from the ADC. I do not see any flexing of muscles from other political parties.
But you see the NDC?
I see the NDC coming out strong, and I think despite how they will come, because the entire opposition is not together, APC will still carry the day.
It's a good place to leave it. Thank you very much, Dr. Eke Peters, Executive Director, Certain Leadership Initiative, for talking to us this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break. Kakaaki Socialism next.
Thank you.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT, on air, online, on Live.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
Hello everyone, this is Kakaaki Social. You welcome. I am Onoshorena Obozege. A big time on the space of social media, beginning with social media critic Very Dark Man that says he's more than ready to face the law following threat of legal action from the presidency over a viral audio clip linked to President Bola Tinubu. VDM made this known in a video response after presidential aide Bayo Onanuga described the audio clip as fake and warned that VDM faces the full weight of the law. Listen to the clip first before we continue.
Trying to take me out from the position, but it's not possible. And mind you, I'm winning this election. I don't care whatever is happening. Nigeria deserves it. Because when I was running as a president, they didn't wanted me. Now, all of a sudden, they want me to rescue them from insecurity. As of last week, I to step down for me, but he refused. Now, I'm not begging him again. I will be whatsoever in my mind, and I will make sure the insecurity affects people in Southeast more. Listen, I am going to borrow more and more and more money from World Bank. Try to understand me. I wouldn't like to stop this insecurity because if I do, how will our party be able to raise funds to win elections? Think about it. Even the loans I'm taking is to fund them. Also, I have plan after I'm done with my position as a president.
All right, that's the voice right there, said to be by President Bola Tinubu. Let's see that reaction coming from Bayo Onanuga. After that post went viral, he had reposted it, and he says, this VDM needs to face the weight of the law for being the conveyor and disseminator of a fake audio of President Tinubu. This is a clear case of an egregious abuse of the social media platform. And then in reaction to that, to the warning, Very Dark Man insisted that he has nothing to hide and is fully prepared to face the law. And he says they had not given any warning so far to bandit or anything, but just because of that, he's not going to defend the AI clip. Let's hear him.
You are a very, very stupid old man. I'm not trying to insult you. Look at the dictionary meaning of stupid. That is the definition of who you are and what you represent. And this is the reason why I said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should not come back in 2027, because all the people that operate under him, these people know they use their brain. And that is why, you see this audio, I will not defend it. Shame na say na me. And when I come back to Nigeria, I must feel the weight of the law. You know the shame. I'm not going to defend this voice note. They say a Very Dark Man release, and if I defend her, may God punish me.
Well, the original video is also there where that audio was doctored from, but let's run because of time. Emeka is saying, very dark man just served Bayo Onanuga the unfiltered truth with zero chill, chasing fake audios while our children rot in the bus. That's not governance, that's distraction from main issues. The real message is there, fix the country, not the narrative. Also in reaction to this, is this user Femicol, he says, Omo, now today I know say Twitter is not a real place. So like everybody know that the video is not from Very Dark Man. It is clearly an agenda, but they keep pushing it like that. Omo, we can never move forward like this. So Nigerians, I fear now. More thought to Ugo Lagos says Very Dark Man is free to speak against insecurity and bad governance in Nigeria. Nobody should silence that. But the moment everybody who disagrees with you automatically becomes APC sponsored, it starts looking less like activism and more like emotional blackmail. For Stanley, it says Anix. Anix is the person who shared that video reposted by Bayo Onanuga. In fact, it's been seen by over 1 million users right now on X, while the reposted one by Bayo Onanuga, as I checked this morning, has been seen by 1.3 million people as well. So Stanley is telling Anix, the person who posted the video, he says, you have more questions to answer than VDM. How did you get this doctored video with Tinubu doctored audio voice? I think DSS is supposed to pick you first before Very Dark Man. As you can see, you posted this video. You didn't repost it from anyone. It is a direct post from you. So Stanley says Annex should be questioned about that. Talking about security matters, we have President Bola Tinubu's response to a question on insecurity after Eid prayers in Lagos that is generating reactions online, with many Nigerians saying they are struggling to understand the connection between the question and his answer. When asked about the state of insecurity in the country, the president spoke about obedience to the law, the sanctity of human life, and religious teachings against violence and banditry. He also referenced sacrifice and the value of life in relation to Eid celebration. But shortly after the video surfaced online, several netizens took to social media questioning the correlation between the question that he was asked on insecurity and the president's response.
Issue of insecurity, that is the law. That's obedience of law. You know, where in the only teaching that you should engage in banditry. Nowhere that you should kill another human being. The sacrifice we are talking about, even in the beginning of life, where we take this from, a child was replaced with animal. And that is what the value of life is all about.
All right, that's how he responded to tell us about insecurity and your effort about it. Now, another angle of that video, this guy was directly behind the president. So as soon as the journalist asked, tell us about insecurity, he quickly moved his hand like this, like, shut up your mouth, or don't even bother about that. So this user, Mona Cho, then says, they are always in a hurry to rush him away to avoid him answering questions because we know he will face West when asked about North. More thought on this one coming from X. OK Gospel says, what you are saying today is a product of failed leadership. It's so painful. Look at what the president of the most populous black nation has to say about the insecurity in the country he swore to protect. More thought to comment to this. Ekene says, please, any president supporter here should help us explain what he was trying to say, because me, I don't understand anything. And then we got a savior in the next user who gave us an understanding of what he was saying. So the up-and-coming billionaire says, as funny as it sounds, I understood the last part. He meant it's better to kill a ram than killing a human being as it was done during Abraham's time that we are now emulating on Eid still at that. It says terrorism will soon end and God Almighty will mercilessly deal with those behind it too. Amen and amen. Still with the president, he has assured Nigerian children that they are not forgotten or abandoned amid growing insecurity and hardship across the country. In his Children's Day message, the president describes children as the pride of the nation and promised that his administration would intensify effort to secure the release of abducted children and bring them back home safely, while perpetrators will have to face justice. However, former Minister of Education Obi Ezekwesili criticized the president and the political class, warning that they do not dare wish any Nigerian child happy Children's Day with their recycled, ghost-written and media handlers that they've already drafted, because they have no moral standing to wish anything to the children, considering the lack of protection for the children. So the president says efforts are being doubled and even tripled to bring back the children kidnapped, but Obi Ezekwesili says, shut up, don't say anything, there is nothing happy about the day. I will just take a reaction. This is Pastor Philip Olubakin of the Supernatural Life Church across its media platforms. He had said, "Dear Mr. President, sir, you cannot tell us to pray that the bandit will have a change of heart. Use your good office to track and hunt down the terrorists. Crush terrorism to the last one of them. Do not spare. Bring back our children. Restore joy to the heart of the sorrowing parents, because it is definitely not a happy Children's Day today. We will pray for strength for our good soldiers. We will pray for confusion in the camp of our enemies. We will pray for wisdom for the good leaders of this country and the courage to do what needs to be done." A quick outlook at the names of the abducted children at pupils right there, 46 of them. I looked through this yesterday. Definitely we know the 2-year-old that is there, and also 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and from what I see here, the oldest of the abductees is 14 years old. 14, all right. At 11, we have 16. That's 16-year-old, the oldest of them right there. So please and please, all hands have to be on deck to see to the release of our children. You don't even want to see the back of their backs right now, which have been a viral video and viral pictures of them going on right there. They have to come back. 2-year-old. Doesn't make sense. Please and please, even the oldest of us should be enjoying freedom. Well, away from that, still talking children, chaos broke out during the Children's Day celebration at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City, Edo State, after some male student allegedly harassed female students at the event organized by the state government. We hear that the situation escalated when security personnel intervened and a member of a private security outfit used pepper spray on the crowd, affecting several students. The government says the bouncer involved has since been detained. But in a disturbing video now circulating online, some students are seen collapsed on the ground and packed closely together as panic spread across the stadium, with concerns also raised over the reported absence of ambulances at the scene as they were rushed to the Edo Specialist Hospital for treatment. So we hear that the male figure of the student, they were trying to be funny, making advances at their female counterpart. The bouncer made an effort to stop them. They recoiled and they came for the bouncer, and that was how he had to use pepper spray for his own safety. But they say now that he has been detained, and that's the video right there. Let's just have some seconds of it. All right, let's see what you think in 3 reactions here. Mr. Papito says it's now confirmed. that APC government signed a contract with Devil to reduce Nigeria population, while some children are in the forest in the hands of terrorists, receiving all manner of torture. Their mates were tear gassed today while celebrating Children's Day. Can you just imagine that children that left their homes today to celebrate Children's Day at Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City ended up receiving treatment in the hospital after allegedly inhaling tear gas? This is painful beyond words. Our children deserve safety, joy, and protection, not fear and trauma. Another user, Onyinye Chuku, no one is spared. Not little children, not adults. Just look at how injured children are packed up like sardines because no ambulance in 2026, giant of Africa. Final reaction to that, and then we have more stories that a confrontation reportedly broke out between some young women and police officers in Bayelsa State, affecting and after ladies accused the officers of harassing them during a stop and search operation. According to the ladies, the incident happened while they were traveling from Port Harcourt to Bayelsa State when officers allegedly questioned them over a vibrator found in their bag, describing the vibrator as an exhibit. The situation later escalated into a heated argument, with the women accusing the officers of intimidation and unnecessary harassment as videos from the scene surfaced online.
Yes, fine. It's vibrator exam. Give us no to go.
What you make of vibrator dildo sounds like a name and surname. Abiola Oshodi says this one is really concerning. Even during stop and search, there should be clear respect for people's privacy and a proper understanding of what actually qualifies as an offense or exhibit. Situations like this just keep showing that better training and clearer guidelines are still needed for some officers. And he has tagged police NG. Ituma Sani says, which law would they use to prosecute those girls now? Yeah, it's morally wrong to see girls moving around with stuffs like that. But have they broken any known law? The police should focus on important matters and leave those girls to their consciences. And Kenechukwu Caleb says arresting girls because of vibrator. When did vibrator become an exhibit? Herdsmen, Boko Haram, bandits, kidnappers, full bush with guns. They somehow pass roads to transport these guns to them, but now vibrator be the problem, or more, this country don't tire me. And Dr. Not Your Boy says, but in a sane country, should women be carrying vibrators in their handbags and be mobile up and down? Just imagine what they wanted to use it for. They want to start masturbating in public, and kids might be around to watch and soil their minds. For once, the Nigerian police is doing their work. Kudos. Then for Cynthia, she says they want to use it for kidnapping. That's why the police had to intervene right there. Well and well. To our final story for today, it's coming from Abia State, where the governor, Alex Oti, has named the new Umuahia bus terminal after the returning officer who announced his electoral victory during the 2023 governorship election. That's Professor Inena Oti. The governor made the announcement during the commissioning of the terminal, explaining that the gesture is a mark of appreciation for her integrity and professionalism in the electoral process.
I have never done elections before in my life. I stood. I still stand. I will continue to stand. On my roots. Votes must count. The mandate of the people must stand.
All right, let's see what you make of this. If it's a kind gesture in your perspective. Justice says, awesome. I'm big on giving people their flowers while they are still alive and well. She's immortalized. There has to be a law now for the future. Whoever changes this name should die by firing squad immediately. Alex Oti OFR must make that law now. My verdict. Two more thoughts to this one. Another user, Johnino, says, it is very nice and commendable until Wike, Sanwo-Olu, or President Tinubu do it. We will know what we are doing. He said, we all know what we are all doing. And Big J5 says, now so God will position one person to ensure our votes count. That day, Nigeria's liberation will come. All right, everyone, we're looking forward to that day where Nigeria will be liberated, in the words of that last user. Thanks a bunch for being a part of Kakaaki Social this morning. I'm Rena Obio on social media and AIT_online. And I must thank you to the stories that you tagged me to. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Out you come. With the shortage of brand new aircraft delivery across the world, Emirates decided to go it alone and refurbish over 200 of our existing planes at our own engineering facility. This makes it the largest retrofit program on the planet. For our customers, it means even greater consistency of a world-class product.
Progress no dey happen just like that. It dey come from support when you need am.
Mommy, I got the school fees. You too much.
Na money point oh.
Money point, thank you.
Customer, na transfer abi? Confirm.
Bro, na transfer.
Na money point oga. Oh, na confirm.
Progress na peace of mind when you know say payment go land as Sure Banker. Progress na small wind where they carry person go far.
No worry, yourself go make am. Mo go buy ball.
Victor, even you they use money point?
Of course now, they use money point.
Confirm.
Money point, made for your progress.
Out you come. With the shortage of brand new aircraft delivery across the world, Emirates decided to go it alone and refurbish over 200 of our existing planes at our own engineering facility. This makes it the largest retrofit program on the planet. For our customers, it means even greater consistency of a world-class product.
My baba, they always say, for market, every day gets your own wahala. Sometimes people go on scam you. But Baba say, no be by gra. You must cool down, dey sharp. Because with OPay payment, your money go enter sharp, no story. But inside market, anything fit happen. One day, we no see phone again. My baba remember OPay USSD lock, dial *955*131#. Baba press am, lock account. From market woman to driver, from small boy to big man. Now OPay, they protect people like us. My baba fit sell, press phone, collect POS, and still they teach me price. And when they don't tire am, go just tap OPay night guard. We no fear for this our hustle life. Now OPay be the people payment shield.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray-Bar Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political Platform, now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
Out you come.
With the shortage of brand new aircraft delivery across the world, Emirates decided to go it alone and refurbish over 200 of our existing planes at our own engineering facility. This makes it the largest retrofit program on the planet. For our customers, it means even greater consistency of a world-class product.
Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political Platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray-Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as Political Platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political Platform, now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. You still are watching Kakaaki, the African Voice, this Thursday morning, the 28th day of May 2026. Time to go into our very second conversation this morning. I told you that the Nigerian government and the World Bank agreed to cancel a $717.7 million funding originally allocated for Nigeria's electricity sector, and that was done by a formal request by Nigerian government and a formal decision by both parties to discontinue the program due to failure to meet key reform targets. And let's talk about that now. The scrapped federal government World Bank Power Program. Dr. Joy Ogaji is joining me. Dr. Joy is Executive Secretary and CEO of the Association of Power Generation Companies. She's joined this morning by Dr. Marcel Okeke, an economist and energy expert. He's also a public affairs analyst. They are both joining me virtually. Good morning, Dr. Ogaji. Good morning, Dr. Okeke. I hope you can both hear me clearly. Okay, the
yes,
network.
I'm hearing you very clearly.
The network has taken Dr. Ogaji away for now, but Dr.
Good
Okeke.
morning, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, lovely. Good. I'm glad you can hear me, Dr. Ogaji. Now, I'm going to start with the lady. This development I talked about here, the cancellation of that funding.
Sorry, is it possible to increase your volume? It's very low. I can't hear anything.
I'm practically shouting here, but I do hope that something can be done technically to boost the audio for you. But the development we're talking about here, can you hear me now?
Still very faint. I have
to
put...
Dr. Okeke, can you hear me clearly?
I'm hearing you very well.
All right, Dr. Okeke, let me start with you while we'll try and tinker with Dr. Ogaji's audio and see if we can give her some clarity. Now, the development I talked about earlier on brought an end to the remaining portion of the $1.52 billion power sector recovery program, performance-based operation. What was it about at the beginning? What was this Nigerian government World Bank program specifically set out to achieve in the first place?
Well, thank you for having me on this program first and foremost. You know, the electricity power sector in Nigeria has been going through a lot of challenges for quite some time now, you know, and that is why we have the terrible situation we have of every sector of the economy experiencing a serious power challenge, you know. So the program you are referring to is just an aspect of the reforms the CBN, I mean the federal government has in place to revive the sector and improve power supply generally, you know. So it is just one of an aspect. And so there was a lot of delay in terms of processing the loan and making it available for the federal government to execute, you know, the necessary project, you know. So as it is now, there are two sides to it. The federal government is frustrated by the pace at which the World Bank, you know, is processing and releasing the loan. You understand? And the fact that, you know, they are not meeting the targets set out for that aspect of the program for power restoration and improvement. So it's like in frustration. The federal government asked that this entire process be stopped and the remaining part of the loan be cancelled. So that is what it is. Because if you check what the Accountant General of the Federation, you know, said concerning this cancellation, you can now see that it's in frustration that the protocol or the procedures the World Bank is going through for the federal government to access, you know, and draw down on this loan is such a frustrating process. And they said, let's cancel it all. And so that's why it's cancelled. That's why it's cancelled.
So when you talk about frustration, is that your interpretation of what both parties have given as reasons for the discontinuance of the program? They talked about macroeconomic mismatches, tariff delays, and disbursement delays given as reasons. You seem to term it as frustration. Is that what you see?
That's what I summarize this to be, because the federal government does not see the World Bank processes, you know, meeting its project target. You know, it has some targets, you know, to improve the water, power supply and all that. So the procedure, the processes, the protocols of the World Bank for them to release the loan, do not appear to be going at a pace that, you know, will make the project realizable, you know, within the allotted or expected time. So that's why I use the word frustration. And so the federal government, and if you check through, like I said, the Attorney General, Accountant General of the Federation said, let all these things stop, you know. And so that's how they stop the loan. Not that it's not needed, but it's a question of failure to achieve the target. And they said, let's stop it. And maybe they will come up with a fresh way of, fresh funding target or fresh funding sources going forward. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Okeke, I still am not able to reach Dr. Ogaji quite yet because of the audio issues. Oh. But some reports say that the federal government wrote to request that the loan facility be halted. Another story says that the facility was cancelled at the instance of the World Bank, who were unhappy with Nigeria's failure to meet certain targets. This sounds like a fundamental disagreement between the Nigerian government and the World Bank. What is the real picture? Can you talk to us about that?
Well, that is like what I said is the side of the federal government, and that is why I use the word frustration. But you see, it's an unusual situation. It's a very unusual situation, you know, for a loan that is already approved, and some part of it has been drawn down, you know, and for it to be cancelled, you know, along the line. So really, if you look into it very well, we may not have all the facts with us now. The two parties are satisfied with the way things are going. So the way they mutually agreed and got the loan approved appears to be the way the two of them have agreed for the loan to be cancelled. Because it wouldn't have been cancelled if the two sides did not agree. That's what it means.
So
but on the side of the federal government,
Dr. Okeke, why then does there seem to be a fight for the optics? Everyone trying to exonerate himself. Oh, we asked for the loan to be cancelled. Oh, we are not happy with the way you are not meeting your targets, your performance targets. It seems like there's a public relations stunt going on here.
You have said it. Public relations stunt. The World Bank will not allow itself, to be kind of painted black, if you like. And on the other hand, the federal government will not want to own the responsibility that it unilaterally just asked that the loan be cancelled, for nothing. When in fact, you see the power situation in Nigeria so bad, and so it just goes out and says World Bank cancel this loan. No. So like you said, it's a PR stunt, and each one of them is trying to maintain a clean record and a clean face. That's what is going on, But that's why on the federal government side, I say it is frustration, That's the pressure we get out there. There's frustration.
Dr.
So they say,
Okeke.
let's stop all this. It doesn't mean that the federal government doesn't need money again, to get the power sector in shape. It doesn't mean that.
Dr. Okeke, beyond the optics, beyond the PR stunts, Nigerians have grappled with this electricity problem for far too long. If you go back to, let me say 2006, 2007, when the federal government started the NIPP project, and of course several power generating plants were built, over $16 billion in the first instance. I do not have a record of how much has been spent apart from the $16 billion that the Obasanjo administration spent, but I know that a lot more money has been spent on the sector since then. I was hoping that Dr. Joy Ogaji would help us with that kind of information. But so much money has gone into the power sector, yet Nigerians have no electricity to use in their homes, at work, for their factories. I watched a video a few days ago of a car wash in South Africa whose owner was being harassed. The owner, incidentally, is a Nigerian, and he was told to live in that video. I don't know, I cannot prove the authenticity of that video, but he was told in that video that he should leave. And somebody commented that if this man should bring this car wash to Nigeria, how will he power it? And that is the problem that most industrialists and even MSMEs in Nigeria face. So $16 billion plus down the line, Nigeria still doesn't have stable electricity supply. How do we resolve this conundrum?
Well, again, thank you for the historical perspective you've given. But what you are saying appears to be the common thing in the Nigerian economy. I'm not sorry to say that. I want to believe you're also aware of what is happening in the refining sector, where our state-owned refineries have been lying dormant and recumbent, if you like, for several decades. So the same thing is happening in the power sector. A lot of money has gone into it, and if you like, you say down the drain, like you said, and nothing coming forward. There are factors. You have the human factor, okay? You have political will, then you have the executive capacity and all that, then you have the ingrained corruption in the system, because it's human beings that are to execute these things. Just like we're talking about World Bank and Nigeria and all that. When we're talking about Nigeria country, I'm talking about the World Bank institutions. At the end of the day, it's human beings in the country and human beings in the World Bank as an institution, that get these things to become what we are talking about now. So in the power sector, the human factor there, the level of corruption, the billions that have gone down the drain are embezzled by human beings. And I don't want to mention them. Some people are now not only being investigated, you know. But some people are already going through the judicial process, you know, to prove their innocence or whatever regarding the billions that have gone down the drain, the various projects in the power sector. As it is now, you know what we are still going through. You know, the national grid, you know, fails almost every other day. You understand? You know, you get the government trying band A, band this, band that to supply power. You know the situation would not be so was not so good that a whole minister presiding over that ministry had to resign to go and conduct, run an election. You know, he himself, I must say, must have been frustrated along the line, and so on and so forth. So, what to do? There are a lot of things to do. A lot of things will be the human side. Are the right people in the right places? Is there political will on the part of the powers that be today to get this is done? Are there vested interests in the system that are sabotaging what is going on to keep Nigeria running as a generator economy, as has been alleged in the past, and so on and so forth? So these are the issues. And government should look critically, be serious with it, to supply power. I don't know whether I remember clearly. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did say during the campaign that if by the time he completes his first term, he's unable to supply power to Nigeria and all that, that let Nigerians not vote him for the second term. I don't know whether I'm right. But if really that was the statement he made, see where we are now. So it's incumbent on him to really perform and get the power sector working. You know, not the Asharok running to get his own supply from solar power supply or some other sources of power and leaving the rest of Nigeria. It doesn't solve the problem. So the government should do something more serious than that. Thank you.
Now, Dr. Keke, corruption, policy somersaults, and unclear regulatory frameworks and several other issues are plaguing the power sector in Nigeria. And it makes one wonder, is the Nigerian power sector jinxed?
Well, if you say the power sector is jinxed, some other sectors are also jinxed in Nigeria. And that's why it's like we're remaining forever underdeveloped or developing country. Because if the power sector is not gotten right, so many things will not work. You know, it is what drives any productive activity. You have said it here. Ordinary car wash that is working in South Africa, will it work in Nigeria? If the car wash is not working, is the hairdressing salon working? Is the bakery working? Is the dry cleaning station working? And so on and so forth. So I can't say the sector is jinxed. I have told you that it is corruption, the worst kind of it that's going on. I don't want to mention persons that are being tried now, you know, for the billions of dollars they have allegedly invested, you know, when they were trusted with this issue of reviving or revamping the sector. And you know that. You know the history of that institution, of that establishment and so on. So I won't say it is jinxed. If the government is really serious about it, they have to look at the human side of it. The human beings there, do they have the commitment to get these things done? Are there external influences that don't want these things gotten right in Nigeria? I've said it. We have remained a generator economy for so long, and you know that. All kinds of generators of various shapes and various power level and all that are being imported into Nigeria, and some people are becoming multi-billionaires, you know, in the distribution chain of generators, you know. So that's what's going on. And so these people have so established themselves that they always find ways of frustrating even government projects in that regard. Can you imagine the bizarre situation of Nigeria asking that the loan approved by the World Bank for an aspect?
All right, Dr. Okeke, let me ask you to hold on for a moment. Let's talk to Dr. Gaji now. Dr. Gaji, can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, AIT crew, for having me.
Okay, so let's quickly talk about this this loan, this facility that has been cancelled. I'm wondering, Nigeria needs energy, especially the electricity sector. Why was it cancelled? What exactly the story behind this thing? Because we see two different sides. Nigeria saying we requested for it to be cancelled, and the World Bank saying that, look, you didn't meet your performance targets.
Anyway, thank you very much for that question. From the privatization, which took place on the 1st of November 2013, the generation companies, about 6 of them that were in the PHN, the old PHN, Egbin, Sapele Power PLC, Egbin Power PLC, Transcorp, which was formerly Ugeli Power. We have the Kainji Jeba that was concession for mainstream energy. Then Shiroro concession by North South Power Limited. So these 6 generation companies were, and Geregu, before I forget, there were 4 thermal gencos, thermal meaning using gas to generate power, and we had 2 hydros, being the Kainji Jeba, concession by mainstream, Shiroro concession, the concessionaire was North South Power. So that made the 6 power plants. They were largely 100% privatized, while the distribution companies, only 60% was privatized and government retained 40%. Now, if you're talking about why is the World Bank coming in, Nigeria is not the first country that World Bank has provided support. Currently, I know World Bank is supporting Senegal, Egypt, and other countries. And not just only in Africa and outside Africa. We know the role of World Bank in the world. As the name goes, world is a World Bank. And they offer loans to government. So there are DLIs, deliverables, that are attached to those loans. But over the years, and this loan was brought in under a program called the PSRO, or the PSRP, Power Sector Reform Program, or Power Sector Reform Operation, in 2020, to enable, to enhance, increase liquidity, to enhance transparency, and to relieve government of the burden of tariff shortfall. But the World Bank, from 2020 to 2026, have done the analysis and seen that those benchmarks are not being met. They have looked at it and seen that all the things that we set out to do, such as ensuring liquidity improvement, ensure transparency, to restore financial viability of the power sector, to improve reliability of electricity supply, reduce fiscal burden on the federal government, and from tariff shortfall, and to increase transparency and accountability. These are the 4 benchmarks upon which, or the KPIs for which the PSRP was introduced.
Okay.
You are all Nigerians. You can assess. So number 1, to restore financial viability. Do we now have financial viability when generation companies are crying that they are being owed over 7 trillion now? And number 2 is to improve reliability of electricity. As a Nigerian, can you say there is reliability of electricity? Number 3, to reduce fiscal burden on the federal government from tariff shortfall. Has that been resolved? And finally, to increase transparency and accountability. You can see that these 4 key areas, we cannot even say 50% of it has been achieved. So both parties have come to the table and seen that, you know what, this thing is not working. And as a result, is a mutual agreement, as the news says. The federal government agreed, the World Bank agreed, and it has been cancelled.
Okay.
So I think, yes.
Dr. Gaji, unfortunately, we have run completely out of time. We really, that audio problem didn't allow us to have this conversation. I'm thinking that we may have to redo this some other time, but we have to go for this morning. And I'd like to thank you for persevering and speaking to us this morning. Dr. Joy Ogaji and Dr. Marcel Okeke have been speaking with me this morning on the scrapped federal government and World Bank Power Program. Dr. Ogaji is the Executive Secretary and CEO of the Association of Power Generation Companies, and Dr. Okeke is an economist, an energy expert, and public affairs analyst. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a great day. Next on Kakaaki, the African Voice, time for State of Human Rights. Okay, not State of Human Rights now. We have to go because we are actually completely out of time. See you again on Friday. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe, whatever it is, wherever you are. My name is Kunle Adewale.